The show starts in 3, 2, 1.
There goes that man's jockstrap. Oh my God, did you see that?
America's team? Yeah, right.
Oh, baby, it's a big day in sports.
There's nothing like battling it out with your teammates all season long to go win a championship.
Green Bay's got it this year.
Huge move for them. I think it's going to be a game changer.
We have a lot to talk about this busy week in the sports world. Welcome to the In a League of Their Own podcast.
The In a League of Their Own podcast is brought to you by Golf Kicks. Screw your shoes. By Canadips. Rep Sports. By Smooth My Balls. And by Streamer Loot. Check out the In a League of Their Own merch line today. Welcome to the show. Let's see what Austin and Collin are diving into today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 96 of In a League of Their Own podcast. Today's interesting sports fact, we're going to take you back to the 96th World Series between the New York Yankees and the New York Mets. The New York Yankees ended up defeating the Mets 4-1 to win their third consecutive championship, becoming the first North American professional sports team to accomplish that feat since the 96 through the 98 Chicago Bulls. There would end up to be 4 Hall of Famers ending up playing in that series: Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, Joe Torre, the manager of the Yankees, and then Mike Piazza from the New York Mets. Derek Jeter ended up winning the MVP, and the New York Yankees, with that win, was the 26th World Series in franchise history, becoming the most all-time.
How many times, or I don't know if you've found how many times that the Yankees and Mets have ever played in a World Series? Because it's kind of they have their Metro Series every time they play, or during the year.
It was the first time that like the same state teams played each other since the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland A's back in 1989. That was the first time that the in-state teams played each other for the World Series. That was the first time that happened.
Okay.
So this was the second time ever that it's happened where 2 teams from the same state ended up making it to the World Series and playing each other. And it was pretty interesting. Yankees ended up making it in as a wild card team, finishing the season 87-74, when the New York Mets ended up in first with 94 wins and 68 losses.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, then. Moving into our NFL news for the day. Kicking things off with a big signing down in Tampa. Richard Sherman went down to visit the Bucs yesterday, and sounds like quickly they made a deal to bring him down to the Bay Area. So huge signing for them, as they're still dealing with injuries to that defense and that secondary as a whole. So great to see that he finally found a spot to land too. I know after his whole debacle up in the Seattle area with him reportedly trying to break and enter into somebody's house and all that, how that whole thing went down. It's good to see with his age and with that whole thing, somebody else gave him another chance.
Yeah. Good to see him getting a chance, as well as Josh Gordon. That's 2 veterans who have gone through off the field issues coming back. I believe Richard Sherman yet is pending a physical before he can be added to the game day roster. He is practicing and everything, but I think it is pending a physical before like he ends up getting his money that he signed for and being added to the game day roster. But yeah, with them losing their cornerback, literally one of the first plays of the season for 6 weeks, puts you in a deep hole. And then with this whole COVID stuff going around, it doesn't hurt to have an extra great player added to your depth chart.
For sure. Moving into the next bit of news here. We brought it up probably over a month ago as it being kind of rumored, but the Chicago Bears, one step closer to a new stadium as they finalized a purchase for Arlington Park property. Earlier in the offseason, there was rumors of them potentially moving out of Soldier Field, though it was never really confirmed. This step kind of confirms that, as they're bought a stake of land, Arlington Park. I think is that more south?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's south, and then that's where they have a horse track. They have a dog racing park as well. I believe that is the area that they're buying. Where the horse track and the dog track used to be, and I think that's what they're planning to turn into the new stadium, because it's 326-acre park property. And they put $197.2 million down when they signed. So I mean, there's some cool ass stadiums, look at SoFi, what they just did, kind of reading and listening to other former NFL players speak about this. A lot of them were just like, Dallas was definitely the greatest stadium. And now I can't imagine playing in SoFi with how like cool of an atmosphere that must be. Now the Bears kind of can take both of those and see what they could do, as far as combining the two best indoor stadiums in football. That's going to be the thing. Are they going to go indoor, or are they going to stay outdoor? That's going to be the real question for the Bears moving forward, because the NFC, you kind of have that advantage of teams playing outside in the cold, where if you move to an indoor, that advantage is completely gone.
Yeah. And plus, if Chicago does that, that opens up the opportunity for concerts year round, events year round. Having a bid for future Super Bowls to bring to Chicago. Obviously, that area is big enough to house and hold a Super Bowl atmosphere. You make it indoors, take the cold atmosphere out of it, just like what Minnesota did a couple years back. New stadium, cold environment, doesn't matter. It's a dome. Boom, bring a Super Bowl there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I feel like Bears fans, I would probably want to keep it an outdoor stadium. But if you're the Bears team, if you're the city of Chicago, you probably want to do a closed stadium just because of the millions of more dollars that you'd make from it.
Yeah, and it turns out that the lease that has been signed since 1971, the lease runs through 2033. So if they end up breaking that lease beforehand, they would end up having to pay $84 million in damages to the city of Chicago for breaking the lease.
But I mean, if you're building a $4, $5, $6 billion stadium, 84 million is pocket change at that point.
Oh, right. All these people who are involved in all this stuff have the money to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just going to be very interesting to see, because Arlington Heights is kind of like a Richie area too. So it's going to be interesting to see if they want a stadium added right next to all these fancy ass fucking high rises and stuff. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this whole Bears thing. Obviously, they are one step closer as they literally put a big down payment down for the huge property. And the mayor just says, we remain committed to working with the Bears, and have advised the Bears that we remain open to discussions to keep them in the city. So we will see what happens. Packers will be the last team with an outdoor stadium in the NFC.
Yeah, which I don't know. It makes you like, as a Packers fan, it's always like, oh, they'll never change it. They'll never like. It makes you think like in our lifetime, we'd probably be old and gray by the time that they're like maybe thinking about having that conversation. But even then, it's like
it's too much history, man. To tear that down. If it wasn't one of the first stadiums, literally like ever to exist, then yeah, I bet it already would have been ripped down, and we would have been playing in the fancy ass dome stadium with the whole Packerland thing that they have.
Yeah,
how that whole thing is just amazing. What they've done to the green, what they've done down there. I couldn't see why they wouldn't be playing in a fancy ass stadium. They definitely would have been able to get the money for that, but like the history that comes with that, I don't think that they'd ever do it.
No,
there almost isn't enough room. You'd have to buy out all the businesses around.
Yeah, you'd almost have to move, because there's like the Chuck E. Cheese.
Center. You'd have to move the rest center.
Yeah, because they already knocked down like that Kmart and like 1 or 2 restaurants to make the Titletown district area. The other way is residential, like to the north side. So like you'd have to talk to those people.
Added those apartments in there.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, going the other way, you have to knock down the Resch Center, the Veterans Memorial Arena, the Don Hudson Center where they practice. Like you'd have to go that way almost, but
Take out the street and literally make it all one big complex.
yeah. Yeah, like you said, I don't see them ever changing it. I mean, if the team ever got into money troubles as to where it's like they're not making enough money throughout the year just with their complex that they have now. But I feel like that Titletown area, I mean, there's the sled hill, the ice skating, there's the brewery there, there's the Kohler Hotel with the restaurant on top of it. Like that has to bring millions of dollars extra a year with
And
that
Lambeau
too.
sells out every single game.
Yeah. So Packers fans, I think, are in good hands for a very long time, unless something hits the fan, which again, not having an owner, who knows
Or a
until
nationwide economic collapse that
yeah.
could do.
But I'll throw things over to you. What do you got for NFL news?
One thing that I got right off the rip here is Detroit Lions ended up releasing linebacker Jamie Collins after exploring all trade options. Turns out no team ended up reaching out and saying that we're even interested. So they're just going to cut bait with him. Like I said before, don't be surprised if the New England Patriots come along and scoop him up in free agency.
Yeah, it was interesting that, I mean, I don't know what teams, I guess, weren't seeing out of him that nobody really wanted to make the call, but
he's kind of older.
yeah, but I feel like nowadays that experience, that wisdom is more sought after sometimes than it is to go out and get a super young guy, because teams are so young now that you almost look at your core groups, your quarterback room, your receiver room, your linebacker room. All right, we got all young guys. We need to bring an old guy in to kind of take leadership.
But it's all about speed now.
Yeah, it is.
And
especially with the tight end.
Right, with the tight ends evolving, like you said, with them getting faster, more versatile, as being more receiver. And then you also have on the other end of that, like the Giants, they just lost Martinez. I could see Jamie Collins getting an offer from the Giants potentially to come fill that spot until he's back. I mean, everywhere else you look in the league, though, there's pretty good linebackers on every single team that are pretty young and they're fast. And I mean, an older guy, yeah, I get the experience part of it, but I mean, when he's getting burnt over the middle by some young guy, that ain't helping you.
Yeah. I guess circling back to the Patriots here, talking about them a little bit. It's been, I mean, all over the place so far this week. We have yet to talk about it. Is the GOAT, Mr. Tom Brady, making his return to New England this coming Sunday night. And as talked about earlier in the offseason with the yardage he was at, he was set up on pace to pass Drew Brees for the all-time passing yards record week 4 here in New England. Again, written perfectly. He's like 67, 68 yards behind, so he has a chance to even do it right in the first quarter. Yeah, it's going to be really fun to kind of, I don't know. Obviously, it's like the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl, the Pro Bowl, but it's just like this game has like one of those feels to it. Although it seems like it might be kind of lopsided on the scoreboard. It has the commercials, the advertising, the attention that a Super Bowl caliber game would have so far this week.
Yeah, Tom's coming in there with no mercy, especially with a book just being released earlier this week about the New England Patriots from an insider, and then all the news coming out about how Tom Brady wanted to say bye basically to everybody in the building, and Belichick told him that he didn't have time and that he could give him a call. Granted, Belichick reports came out that on this phone call, supposedly Belichick told Tom how he's the GOAT and he's so impressed basically about everything that he's done for the game of football and for his team. But still, Tom's coming in there off a loss. Guns blazing. I could see him and Gronk having a big day.
Yeah. especially with Gronk too. That's his return to New England. All eyes are on, oh, this is Tom's return. It's also Gronk's return, a guy who gave
And AB technically, because that was his last team
yeah.
that he was on as well.
So it's kind of a revenge tour for those three guys right now to come back to a team that essentially parted ways with them, decided not that they didn't want them anymore. So they all get to come in and kind of tell them I told you so, as the Patriots are sit 1-2 right now in a really tough spot, falling to 1-3 in that AFC East. I mean, they'd be down there with the Jets, but the Dolphins, who barely just lost a game to the Raiders, the Bills, who are looking really good. The Patriots are slowly looking like the third best team in that division. If they can't turn things around, or at least try to make it close this coming Sunday when Tom comes back.
Yeah, it's going to be, like I said, all eyes are going to be on this game this weekend. For those of you who are football fans, everybody's going to be watching this game.
Yeah. The last bit of news I had for the NFL here is that the Ravens are getting back rookie Rashad Bateman off of IR and 3 defensive starters from the COVID list. So, again, impressive that the Ravens have been able to hang on to a 2-1 record thus far into the season with their issues in the backfield, all their running backs going down, Humphreys going down, or not Humphreys, Marcus Peters going down in their defensive backfield. And then your rookie first round pick, Rashad Bateman, he's out for a while. They finally get him back. So, yeah, it's just that much more impressive seeing how many guys the Ravens have out. And then now they're getting all those guys back. So I'm not sure who they play this week, but
Who?
the Ravens.
They play the Broncos. In
Broncos. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that'll be a good chance for the Ravens to show, hey, this is what we're made of now that we got some people back. And then for Denver to show, hey, we're 3-0 for a reason, to try to hang in there in the AFC West.
Yeah. And then my last point, Steelers and Mike Tomlin says that they're not ready to push the panic button after a 1-2 start. They've had 9 guys out their last game on defense, which all have big impacts. Roethlisberger said that he needs to clean up his play a little bit more, and get rid of the ball. He said he's been holding on to it a little bit too long. Tomlin was asked after the game if he ever was considered bringing in another quarterback for a spark during the last game, and he said absolutely not. There was not one chance that somebody else was coming in. And here we are back again. Did Roethlisberger, do we think he extended his stay by one too long of a year? Or do you think that he's capable of pulling a season together, especially when he gets that defense back healthy, as they did beat the Bills week 1 on the road? I mean, do you think that they're going to be contending for a playoff picture, if not a run to the Super Bowl?
I mean, Big Ben, he has the knowledge, the experience, everything that a quarterback would want at this point in their career. He's been there, he's done that. The one thing that's been a knock on him his whole career is his lack of mobility. And in the league that's getting faster, defensive guys are getting to the quarterback quicker than ever before. And you're still that kind of slow, stiff quarterback in the pocket. I mean, like we mentioned on Monday's episode, it does seem like Ben maybe has overstayed his welcome in Pittsburgh this year, maybe even last year with kind of how things ended. But I don't know, like, obviously it's early, it's only week 3, so it's good that, like they've said, we're not hitting the panic button, we're not worried yet. But in a division where you're now looking like the worst team in that division, with Cincinnati beating them this past week, and then again the Browns and Ravens doing good as well. I mean, another week or 2 of losses, then it's time to hit the panic button and reassess. Do we need better protection for Ben to give him more time? Do we need to go out and get some guys on our defense because they're still missing some key components? Again, TJ Watt out, Devin Bush out, and I think they had a guy in their secondary out as well. So it's like, before the trade deadline, do we go out and try to get somebody? Yeah, it's only week 4. Again, still a long way to go, but yeah, there's cause for concern if the trend continues the way it is with Big Ben. Yeah, and I guess to wrap up our NFL for the week here, we have our Thursday night football game tomorrow night as Jacksonville comes to Cincinnati.
Well, first, do you want to recap Monday night's game?
Oh yeah. Forgot about that.
It's not going to take long.
No.
Eagles looked questionable a lot of the times. Play calling was very questionable. Their defense, absolutely. What are you doing? Granted, they are without Barnett, and he's a huge impact on their defense. They looked like they didn't know what they were doing, and the Cowboys looked pretty good.
Yeah,
they still could have looked better. Clock management was a little wacky. There was some questionable play calls, but other than that, I feel like they looked pretty good.
Yeah, no, we talked about that right before halftime. McCarthy's got 2 timeouts in his pocket. You use both of them, you get the ball back with a minute 20, minute 30 left with no timeouts. Decent field position. Again, you're up 20-7 at that point, so it's not essential that you get points, but at the same time, points aren't easy to come by in the NFL, no matter what the lead, what the scoreboard looks like. So again, going into what you said about clock management, and then the couple calls of Dak's sneak into the end zone that got called back, that took points off the board. I mean, in the end, it didn't really matter. At least for the time being, the Cowboys look like the most consistent team in the NFC East, as again, the Eagles struggled, the Giants are 0-3, and Washington just got pounded this past week by Buffalo. So, yeah, like you said, there's not a whole lot to say about that game. Dallas just kind of solidified that they have control of the NFC East for the time being.
And they did have the little extra momentum on their side with Dak's first game back and at home, which you could tell that their team had a lot more energy than the Eagles did.
Oh, for sure.
And you could tell basically after the first couple drives that this game was going to be lopsided.
Yeah. Yeah, so then now moving into our predictions for tomorrow night's game, Jacksonville at Cincinnati. What are you feeling in this game?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about it for a minute. Do you have a prediction already?
Yeah. Again, Cincinnati coming off a big division win against Pittsburgh. Jacksonville found a way to lose that game against the Cardinals. They looked good for a little bit. Yes, it helped getting that 109-yard kick return for a touchdown. But still, the Jags are the Jags. So I got to go with Cincinnati moving to 3-1 on the year. Final score 24-10 is what I got. I didn't even look at what the
7.
Bengals are favored by 7.
That's what I'm seeing.
Okay.
Were you?
I didn't pull it up at all.
Let me just double check here.
7.5, yeah. Which
I'll take Jacksonville to cover. Bengals to win, but Jacksonville to cover.
what's your final?
I think it's going to be pretty close. 21-17.
Okay.
Actually, no. 28-24. 28-24. Fuck it. Go back to my original. Sticking with the gut. 21-17. 21-17 Bengals.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, it's like the last 2 Thursday night games. Last week, Panthers Texans was a super boring game. I mean, Burrow and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase could have a game and ball out and make it a fun game to watch. But if those two can't get going, I could see it being kind of like a game last week where both offenses are struggling to get going. Both defenses can't get off the field, and you just see field goals back and forth all game. But Yeah, that's it for NFL talk this week.
Damn.
What?
Just was looking at just the best defensive teams in the league according to average yards that they're facing, stops, whatever. And Cardinals are first, Broncos are second, Browns are third, Rams are fourth, Panthers are fifth, Bills are sixth, Seahawks are seventh, Bucks are eighth, Bengals are ninth, and Saints are 10th.
I mean, yeah, every game they've played has been low scoring on the they're holding offenses to low scores because what did they hold the Pittsburgh to 14 or 17 last week? And then the week before that, the Bears that they held, or the Vikings week 1, I think they held them under 20. Anytime you hold a team right now, like teams are averaging 30 to 40 points a game now. If you can hold somebody under 20, that's impressive.
Yeah, that was wrong. Excuse me. I was looking at a wrong thing. Panthers have the best defense technically. Broncos are 2, Browns are 3, Bills are 4, Patriots are 5, Saints are 6, Eagles 7, Bengals 8th, Packers 9, Jets 10. And so far, the best team, the Broncos, are allowing 8.7 points a game. That's the lowest in the league. Panthers are allowing 10 with under 200 yards. They're allowing a game. Granted, they haven't played any great team yet, and when they did have a chance to play a good team, the Saints are without a lot of their players and coaches. So, they have a big game this week, and it's going to be interesting to see how they do. This is going to be their first true test, I feel like, as far as can you stop a team, because they got Dak and Zeke off of a big game, and they're at Jerry World. So it's going to be interesting to see if that Panthers defense can continue to hold.
Yeah, and same thing with the Broncos again too, holding teams to 8.6 points per game. The 3 teams they beat are combined 0 for 9 on the year. So again, taking it with a grain of salt, 3-0 is a good spot to be no matter what. But yeah, it's going to be a test. I feel like a lot of teams this week are finally going to get teams that are out towards the bottom of the board. It's like, okay, are they just struggling or can they bounce back? Teams who are undefeated or towards the top, okay, are they good or are they just playing shit teams? I feel like,
Well, that's like the Ravens. How truly good are they?
yeah, exactly. Which
Cardinals,
is why,
how good are they? Bucks, how good are they? You know what I mean? Like, still Packers, how good are we? We've only beaten one good team on a last second drive.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Granted, we got the win, but that's nothing to be like, oh, we whooped their ass. Like, we're looking really good. It was a close game.
yeah. Yeah, the Cardinals play the Rams, so Rams taking on the Bucks last week. That'll be a really fun game to watch. And then, like you said, the Packers, a defense that again has struggled, but they're a historically great defense. The Steelers. I don't see Rodgers struggling by any means, and hopefully the Packers D can get to Big Ben and get him frazzled early on to throw a couple picks because
sorry.
Big Ben's still known for that, where he can throw 2, 3, 4 picks in a game. He still does that every year.
Yeah, and we just got to keep Rodgers up. That pass rush is going to be coming, especially if they got their guys back. Our O-line is still a little bit questionable as far as pass protection. So as long as we can keep Rodgers upright, I believe he can carry us to a win. And then, yeah, looking at those 305 games, Seahawks, Niners, Cardinals, Rams, the whole NFC or the West is playing each other at the 305 slate. So those are going to be great games to watch, as we're kind of going to get to see how the Seahawks bounce back, how the Niners bounce back, and then the Cardinals and Rams, who's the best team in the NFC West.
For sure. Yeah, we'll break down the rest of those games on Friday before we head to the weekend.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Then going back to our segment or no, I got a couple quick questions here for you regarding baseball. Right now, Salvador Perez is currently leading the home run leaders with 47. Does he hit 50?
How many games do the Royals have left?
Every team should have quite a bit. 6, I think.
Well, it's either
They
three or 5 are the like
Hold on, let me pull it up.
Royals. Let's see here. So the Royals have 5 games left. 3 home runs in 5 games. It's gonna be close, but I'll say he gets it. Just because they play the Indians and then they play the Twins. Both teams who aren't by any means known for their bullpen. So yeah, it'd be cool to see him hit 50. See anybody hit 50 any year. You're usually pulling for him. So yeah, I'll say he hits 50. Probably right on the dot, honestly. 5 games to go. You got to basically average one every other game. But also he can have a 2 home run game in there, which takes the pressure off too. So
Second question. Max Scherzer currently holds the lowest ERA with a 2.28. Corbin Burns with the 2.29. Does he pass Max Scherzer?
no, because if he gets another start, it's either against the Cardinals or the Dodgers, both teams who have explosive offenses. If they were playing an easier team, I could see him going out there and pitching a shutout, having minimal hits. But again, with the Cardinals on the streak that they're on and the Dodgers still trying to compete for that West with the Giants, they're out for blood. Plus, at this point of the year, you'd have to have a really good outing for how many games you've played to average that in to drop a 2.9 below and bank on Scherzer having a bad game on top of it.
You got to allow under 2 runs and your average will go down.
Yeah. But again, if you give up 1 run or 2 runs, like how many innings he's pitched, how many games he's pitched this year to where you average that in? Is it going to go down a tenth? Is it going to go down half a tenth? You know what I mean?
Well, all it has to go down is 0.01.
Yeah. But that's if
so
Scherzer,
it has to go down a tenth.
But that'd be 100th. But again, that all plays into Scherzer. If he goes back on the mound this year, which I'm assuming he will, again, with them still trying to compete for that division title. If he goes out and has a great game, pitches no runs, his goes down. So that means Burns has to go down that much more. I don't know. I'm going to say no just for the way that Scherzer's playing right now. Don't get me wrong. Burns is right there playing a great baseball, but Scherzer has the edge already. They're playing for more than the Brewers are. The Brewers have the division locked up already. They're not playing for a whole lot at this point. I like Scherzer where he's at right now.
So if those 2 guys ended up pitching against each other, you'd take Scherzer?
Which, yeah, that could be a possibility next week.
Well, because that's basically what it's going to be because they're both number 1 pitchers. So if they face each other, your Scherzer gets a nod over Burns.
Yeah, not because I would say that they're even pitching, but the Dodgers offense is better than the Brewers offense. So I think Burns has a potential to give up more runs than Scherzer does.
All right. Sounds good. That comes to my 2 more questions. Speaking on that, thinking the Dodgers having a lot to play for, or do they make the World Series?
No, the Brewers do. I like the Brewers this year. Got to stick with them. I don't know. I'm sick of the Dodgers getting there. I think it's going to be the Giants or the Brewers. The Dodgers have had injuries, which when we get to MLB, I'll be talking about them a little bit. But I don't know. They don't look like they usually do at this point of the year. Which, again, they have backups that are starters on other teams, but still, I like where the Giants and Brewers are at this year.
Sounds good. And then who comes out of the American League?
Ooh, So that's tough because it's kind of wide open over there right now. There isn't a team that's kind of stood forward aside from like maybe the Astros, who have been dominant all the year.
The Rays are the best team in all of the American League.
Yeah, but they've been. I don't know if it's just media or what, but they've been like quietly the best team all year, and they don't really get talked about.
People don't go to their games. They're in Tampa, dude. People don't want to sit inside when it's fucking nice outside because they play in a dome. Or if they played outside, that'd be completely different. But yeah, they don't get no media coverage, nothing, because the Bucks and the Lightning take it all, and they sit again quietly on the verge of going to a back-to-back World Series.
Yeah. I don't know. Out of the AL, if the Red Sox can kind of keep the way things are going right now, they've been going back and forth with the Yankees for the top of that division and the wild card spot.
Yeah, Yankees got a 2-game lead.
Yeah, I don't know. Astros, I'm gonna say Astros, even though nobody likes the Astros, but I feel like they're just kind of coasting right now at this point of the year, and they're going to turn things on once playoffs come, and they'll be representing the American League in the World Series again.
Sounds good. Those are all my questions.
All right. Moving into the NBA then, just one point to talk about. As media days have been happening all week for teams, Damien Lillard kind of clears the air in a situation in Portland, saying he's all in and has faith in the direction that the franchise is going. As over the offseason, there was talks of him getting dealt elsewhere, wanting out, especially with Carmelo Anthony leaving and going down to the Lakers. That's one part of that team that's missing now, that he's going to have to step up that much more. But looks like he's staying loyal to that Portland franchise for the time being. So that kind of clears the air on that as far as if he wanted out, if they're going to dish him out, what that whole thing was going to be, which at this point of the year, that'd be messy, right? With literally the season 1-2 weeks away to dish him out somewhere. But again, NBA is a player-friendly league, so if he wanted out, I'm sure that they would get rid of him at his will.
Sounds good. And the only point that I have in the NBA is Washington Wizards star Bradley Beal comes out and says he doesn't feel any pressure to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Backing star Andrew Wiggins and supposed Kyrie Irving, because people still don't know if he's vaccinated or not. But another big-time player stepping out saying, I don't need to do it.
Yeah, and again, going back to the NBA being a player-friendly league, not enforcing it. I guess one thing that the NBA did say, though, is if a player misses due to COVID violations or having COVID, that they will not be getting paid if they're unvaccinated. So that's the one knock, I guess, that the NBA has against unvaccinated players this year, is that, hey, if you're unvaccinated, you miss time, we're not going to pay you, versus if they were vaccinated and had to miss time, they would still get paid.
And that's how it should be.
Yeah. So hats off to the NBA as being kind of along with the NHL too, which again, they haven't really been talked about a whole lot this year as far as their COVID stuff, aside from saying all teams are basically every other day, we're 100% vaccinated, we're ready to go. We're 100% vaccinated, we're ready to go. NFL has been kind of a shit show with that. MLB too, it seems like every other day, oh, this guy's getting on or off the COVID list, so they're having their issues. And then, like I said, the NFL just making up shit along the way as they go that just seems to benefit the players less and less. So yeah, moving in then to the MLB here for a couple things. Again, with the Dodgers, pitcher Walker Buehler earned his career high 15th win in last night's 2-1 win over the Padres. And then with some Dodgers injury news, they reactivate Cody Bellinger off of IR, who was dealing with that rib injury, in exchange for putting Albert Pujols on the COVID list. So he'll be out 7 to 17 days, whatever that is. So, and then lastly here, actually 2 more things. The Cardinals moved their streak to 17 with a 6-2 win last night over the Brewers, and they lock up that second wild card spot. So essentially, the NL playoffs teams are finalized with seeding to play for. The only exception is the Phillies, who sit 3.5 games back from the Braves. And with 5 games to go, they essentially would have to win all their games and get a little bit of help on the way with the Braves losing some. So pretty much one more Braves win and one more Phillies loss. And the NL side is locked up. It's just a matter of really on the top. It looks like the Brewers are going to be the number 3 spot. And then it's just basically going to be between the Dodgers and Giants at the top, whoever is going to be the division winner or the number 1 wild card, which again, the way that they have the wild card set up, it's a one and done game. Either you win and move on or you lose and you're done. So nobody wants to be in that wild card game come the end of the year. So
What did you say the lead was? The Braves over the Phillies?
3.5.
Then it should be over.
Well, they have 5. They still play each other. So if the Phillies
They
beat
play
them,
each other. They play each other three times.
yeah. So that would be
3 games. So they
3 games. So it'd be 2.5 or half, and then they still have another series after that, don't they?
The Braves have 1 game that was put. Oh shit! They have. Nope, just kidding. I didn't see it. Yep, they both have a series after
Yeah.
that. That's right. Phillies play the Marlins, and the Braves play the Mets.
So it's possible, but again, Phillies won't. If they lose one more and the Braves win one more, that goes to 4.5 with 4 games to go. So yeah, then at that point, it's statistically impossible. But yeah, I don't know. I was kind of pulling for the Phillies when they went on their, what was it, 15, 18 game run there for a while, a month or 2 ago. Looked like they were kind of turning things around. Bryce Harper was playing really well. And then they just kind of fell off here at the end. So yeah, and then on the AL side, things are kind of heating up over there as the Mariners are kind of making a run here. We're pulling them up quick. Standings. So yeah, like I said, on the NL side, things are pretty much wrapped up. On the AL side, the Mariners are still in there. I think they're just a game back here. And then again, the Yankees and Red Sox are basically going back and forth between the number 1 and number 2 spot in the AL East. Seattle's actually half game back now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Blue Jays a full game back. And then Oakland 3.5 games back, still technically in it, but they've been slipping as of late. Lost 2 straight games to Seattle, and then before that, lost 2 straight games to who did they play before that? Might have been the White Sox.
Yeah, and Seattle's on a 9-1 over their last 10.
Yeah,
they're humming right now. I actually got a chance to watch some of their game the other night when they were on ESPN, and they look really good.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, to come from behind and sneak in, that's a lot of momentum, playing the best baseball you've played all year.
Usually the wild card team ends up making it to the World Series.
Yeah. And especially looking at their run differential. The Yankees are plus 49, Red Sox plus 72, Toronto plus 167, Seattle minus 50 on the year for run differential. So it just goes to show that they've been playing not very good baseball for the first really 3 quarters of the season, and they're turning things on here at the end to get things going. So, as on Friday, any teams that kind of wrap things up, there might be a couple. I mean, with tonight and tomorrow, games that are played, Seattle might sneak in. Boston on a 4-game losing streak, they could fall out.
By tomorrow, we should have or by Friday, we should definitely have a great idea of how it's going to look.
Yeah.
Because every team's playing 2 games pretty much from now until then. So,
yeah. So, wrap things up then for the MLB there.
Sounds good. Then over to the ice. NHL preseason continues to be underway. Rangers topped the Bruins last night. Islanders over the Flyers in OT. Sabres over the Jackets in a shootout. Hurricanes over the Lightning 3-1. Oilers shut out the Kraken 6-0. Kings over the Sharks 4-3. And Golden Knights over the Avalanche 4-3. I saw a pretty funny meme. It was Connor McDavid saying, "Welcome to the league, young boys." As he's unreal. He had 3 points last night. That's one thing about the NHL, which is pretty cool, is that your team that plays in the preseason minus maybe 1 or 2 guys is your full roster, is your guys that you're playing with all 82 games into the playoffs. I got a chance to watch a little bit last night, and it was a rough game to watch. Seattle couldn't even really control the puck. Speed. It looks like they're going to have to rely on playing the body more positionally sound, because it doesn't look like they have the speed to compete with some of the faster teams in the league, just off of what I saw last night. Flyers had a good battle for those of you who watched that game. Islanders, they look pretty good. Flyers still pretty good, minus Kevin Hayes out for the couple, I think they said 6 to 8 games. I think he's going to miss the beginning of the year before he's back. That's a big guy that we're missing up front. So we're holding on pretty good. Panarin, he had 3 points in the second period over the Bruins 3-2 win last night. And then touching on the Ukrainian Hockey League, about the guy who had that racist gesture. The United States-born player vows not to come back and play in the league until that guy's banned for life for the gesture. The league ended up suspending him for at least 3 games and is pending a further investigation on how to handle this matter beyond that fact. So that's going to be an ongoing, I guess, discussion that's going to be going on for a while until that gets dealt with. Chicago Blackhawks, Jonathan Taves is supposed to take the ice tonight for the first time in over a year, since he was out last year with his illness. And then last bit of news here, New Jersey's starting goaltender Mackenzie Blackwood is currently unvaccinated, and he says he doesn't rule it out getting it, just because he feels like it would be safer for his family and the rest of his teammates. So he's currently working on it, as I think there's literally, a handful of guys in the whole entire league that aren't vaccinated. Nobody had a problem with doing it. I guess they had guys come straight into the locker rooms and did them all at like the same time. Fucking boom, 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 boom. Like, just everybody, let's do it. And nobody's giving really a bunch of pushback on it. They weren't forced to do it. They just ended up doing it anyway. So it's like, okay, let's do it. And yeah, it's nice to see, just as well as the NBA, handling it professionally instead of like a bunch of bullies forcing people to do stuff that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, for coaches and trainers, you don't have a choice, but as far as players, you do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I had.
Sounds good. And the last bit of news here coming out of the college football world, scare within the Kentucky football program happened this week as 6 sophomore players were arrested on burglary charges from a party that took place back in August. And the case was dismissed yesterday as the state grand jury waived it. So big dodge of the Kentucky football program, obviously not having to deal with that. And 6 young athletes get to continue their collegiate football career. So, yeah, I don't know if it was just a matter of certain evidence came out that said it wasn't them, or if it was a misunderstanding or what it was, but it wasn't a whole lot that was said about it, just that they were arrested on burglary charges and then the case got waived. So, yeah, that's all that's going on there. And on Friday, we'll kind of dive into some of the college football games happening over the weekend.
Yeah, and then sticking with the NCAA, for those of you who aren't aware of this going on as well, the National Labor Relations Board is coming at the NCAA as They hate how universities and conferences use the term student athlete. They believe it was created to obscure the employment relationship with college athletes and discourage them from pursuing rights under the national. Basically, taking people to only come to college to be an athlete, not a student. They are allowing private colleges to now unionize. So this is going to be very interesting going forward how the NCAA responds to this, as they're taking a lot of heat from a lot of stuff with how much money they're dishing out to kids, all this name, image, like this stuff. And I'm glad somebody's doing something about it.
Yeah.
Like, academics are important. Like, don't get me wrong. Not every single kid needs to go to college. But if you are going to get a scholarship that allows you to get a free education, you should end up showing up to your classes and fucking doing your job, because you're given that opportunity to do so. Where if you have to pay for it yourself and you don't really want to take out a student debt, go into debt and all that other type of stuff, you don't have to go to college to learn shit nowadays. You can learn off of a computer. You can learn at your own pace and learn what you want to learn. But I'm glad somebody's stepping in and basically making them have to, double check what they're doing.
Yeah, it's funny how the whole name, image, likeness thing is just turned into a massive snowball. It keeps getting bigger and bigger in the NCAA of, again, them getting in trouble for the labor stuff, the mistreatment over really over 100 years of these athletes in college. And then now the possibility of a outside organization forming to overthrow the NCAA and basically take them over. There's been talks of that. Obviously, nobody's really stepped forward as like, I'm the head of this organization. This is who we're working with. This is how we're going to overthrow it. It's just, again, with all the bad things that have been happening within the NCAA, it's just, again, a bigger snowball that keeps happening, and nobody's willing to get in the way of it and stop it and kind of even things out, because then that's taking money out of the
NCAA's hands.
Yeah, and they don't want to do that,
and that's another part of this Labor Relations Act that's going at them. They want to support the conclusion that people who compete, like we said, back in the beginning of all this stuff, anybody who competes academically or athletically for a university, representing that university, is technically an employer, because you're bringing in money to the university, which they basically want people who bring in that type of income and stuff to be equal scale. Not football players get to fucking live in mansions and people on the science club are still packed into the shitty ass dorms. Like, no, it's all should be equal. You all represent the same university. Granted, if you do bring in more money, unfortunately, too bad, so sad. You're an employer. They can choose to pay you more because you're an employer of that university. And that's basically what this is coming down to, is that they want people to be considered employees of universities instead of being student athletes, because they're not protected under any conditions of employment, nothing, if they're not considered employees. Universities can do whatever the fuck they want to you.
Yeah.
If you're a student or an athlete or a student athlete,
where
if you're an employee, you have a whole board, a whole union that's behind you. If anything bad happens, that they got your back. So I feel like this could scare the shit out of some universities, and hopefully it straightens stuff out, as far as everybody deserves to have a great college experience and not be struggling when you're fucking just trying to represent your college.
Especially being protected from like injuries and stuff too. Like, I mean, thinking back, like when we had Tony on with his whole injury, with how the university was trying to say they owed him, or he owed them, like, what was it, like $20,000-$30,000 because of the injury that he suffered while playing for their team and stuff like that. I mean, that gets rid of those kind of things too, to where, I mean, it's in the fine print, a 17, 18-year-old kid coming onto campus. Oh yeah, you want to be on the football team, sign here. And then when shit hits the fan, then you owe them money in the end. So, yeah, hopefully this is one of those things too with that labor laws act that's coming down on them to try to sort those things out.
Yeah, the one shitty part about Tony is I believe Monmouth, I think, is a private college.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So that's the unfortunate part about that whole thing, where if it was a part of the NCAA or even in general, student athletes at all these fucking institutions are employees, yeah, he would have been protected. And so many other athletes who it's like tear their ACL, MCL, miss a whole entire year, and then it's like they can't go to their classes and stuff for a while because of their surgeries and training and all that stuff. It's like some of these universities just kick these kids to the side and say, too bad, so sad. Like, sorry, we have another senior coming out of high school that's going to step in and take your spot. Sorry, bud.
Yeah.
Like you're only good through the rest of the semester, and then that's it. Sorry. It's like that shit happens daily.
And then they got to transfer out and go to a college they can afford, or just not go to college at all because
they can't afford it.
Yeah.
Yep. It's really fucked up.
Yeah. But yeah, wrapping things up today. Then I guess you have anything else to throw out there?
Well, let's just give her a double check here, see if anything news came out, and it doesn't look like it did. So
sounds
take it
good.
away.
Yeah, thanks to everybody tuning into this episode. Again, we're getting closer and closer to that 100 mark. We'll be kind of obviously putting something together for that episode, doing something a little different, something fun to kind of celebrate it. But so yeah, that'll be next. Yeah, that'll be next Friday that we'll be doing our 100th episode. So outside the episode, feel free to check out our socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Usually any sports news that happens outside this hour window every day. Usually you can find on there. We're good at posting things up on there. For our audio episodes, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that you listen to your podcast, that you can find us there. 5-star ratings help us move up the charts. Check out our merch store, streamerloot.co. Description or link down in the description as well. Check that out. Grab a sweatshirt, t-shirt, mug, anything you want there. And yeah, we'll be back on Friday.
Sounds good. We will see you all on Friday, everyone.